Okay, so today we are going to talk about corporate level strategy. We talked about business level. Now we are going to discuss the corporate level strategy. So there are two strategy levels: business level strategy, which is a competitive level. So each business unit in a diversified firm chooses a business level strategy as its means of competing in individual product markets. So this we already discussed. Now we are going to talk about corporate level strategy, which is company-wide. So specifies action taken by the firm to gain a competitive advantage by selecting and managing a group of different businesses competing in several industries and product markets. So just in summary, basically corporate level strategy is a more diversified and broad version of the strategy. So basically what they do, they select a group of different businesses instead of just one individual product market. So basically for each individual product market, we have a business strategy, but for corporate level strategy, it's like all in all, general, the overall strategy. So the role of diversification. Diversification strategies play a major role in the behavior of large firms. So basically, diversification strategies gives you the option of providing different strategies for so many different products in different markets. So it's very important in the sense that the way your company responds and reacts to certain different market events or changes in the market, it will be determined by your strategy. So the way you diversify is very important. So product diversification concerns the scope of the industries and markets in which the firm competes and how managers buy, create, and sell different businesses to match skills and strengths with opportunities presented them. So basically, your diversification is about the scope or the range or array of the industries and markets that your company decides to be part of and compete with other companies, and how your managers decide to buy, create, and sell different businesses to match their skills and their strengths and opportunities will be, determined by your diversification. So that's very important. So basically, corporate level strategies, there are some key questions. Corporate level strategies value the degree to which the businesses in a portfolio are worth more under the management of the company than they would be under the ownership, under other ownerships. So basically, value-wise, the amount and the degree that the businesses that you're running, they get value under the management of the company if when you compare it with the value they would have if that management didn't exist. So what's the difference? Well, what business should the firm be in, and how should the corporate office manage the group of businesses? So these are some of the questions that we will try to cover in this chapter and discuss about it. So we will go one by one and see what's going on here. Okay. Strategic motives for diversification. There are certain motives for diversifying. So basically, the major goal of diversification is to enhance and improve and boost up your competitiveness, because it's like it goes back to the same concept of the famous proverb that don't put all your eggs in one basket kind of thing. When you diversify, you are basically increasing the chances of your success and decreasing the the chances of your failure because you have more options and you are working in different areas. So if you fail in one product, let's say strategy, you have many more, and that diversification helps you to succeed. Or if you fail in one, that would not be a very important, or I mean, it's important, but it's not like detrimental or like the end of your business because you have other stuff going on. So that's why you diversify. So basically, there are concepts that would be covered under the same umbrella, which is the economics of scope. So you basically, by diversification, there are a lot of commonalities, a lot of activities that are pretty much the same for those activities. Like certain steps or procedures of the production are the same, so you can use them, and so you can benefit from that. Transferring core competencies. Your core competencies are going to be transferred all along your different type of production line. So when you are diversifying, you can benefit from that. Then market power. Basically, when you are competing in a diversified version, you are basically blocking competitors through multi-point competition and vertical integration. So in a sense, you are, again, increasing the chances of your success, and you are basically fighting or competing with the different rivals or competitors in different areas at the same time. So instead of just competing regarding one product, you're competing in several different levels, and that increases the chance of your success, because only losing out in one level will not translate or end in your failure. And then finally, we have financial economics of scale. So in a sense, it's efficient internal capital allocation business structuring. So it's how you diversify your financial investment. So sometimes companies decide to invest in industries that are even not related to their major core businesses. So that part is just they want to increase the financial value of the company by just investing in those and earn money. So when you earn money, you would be able to be more powerful and compete better. So it's the investments of the company that happens. So basically, the market power or multiple competition that you create with the rivals is in the related areas, but the financial economics of a scale talks about the time that you are investing in those areas that are not necessarily related to your core businesses. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so since everything is good, so I'll go to the next slide. So don't forget, if you have any question, you can raise your hand or write it down in the chat box, and we will discuss your question and make sure that the answer is given to your question. So related diversification, as I was trying to say, there's times that the company is just focusing on related markets and they're competing with their rivals. So in that sense, firms create value by building upon or extending their resources, capabilities, and core competencies. So that would be pretty common sense that, of course, when you are competing in the same industry, you would try to build or extend your resources that you are making business with, then capabilities and core competencies. So that's pretty straightforward. Of course, when you're competing, you either want to extend or create new resources or improve or boost up your capabilities and also your core competencies. You want to make sure that they are fine-tuned and they are in the right way and help you to succeed. Then economies of the scope is when you try to save the cost, when you transfer capabilities and competencies developed in one of its businesses to another. So basically, in a sense, we are saving cost also when we are doing the economies of the scope, because when you're diversifying, as I mentioned, there are certain stuff that are very common in the businesses, so you don't have to do them again, and you can use what you have and only add and create external or whatever is needed extra to make that happen. So in that sense, you are basically saving money, because let's say, suppose your company creates compact discs, and then you are going to extend and increase your diversification, and then you want to create DVDs also. So certain things in the CDs and DVDs, the production procedure are the same, you know, they quite look the same material is used. You have to just add some extra features like double layer thing that would be added, and in that sense, you're diversifying, and that also helps you to compete with other companies, because most of the companies are, you know, offering that. And then later on, when you want to increase from DVDs to Blu-ray, also, it's the same concept. Certain common features are the same, and you know, basically the creation of those lines are very similar. So that helps you save cost, that you don't have to start from scratch. So the value is created from economies of scope through operational relatedness, as I mentioned, in sharing activities, and corporate relatedness, in transferring the skills or corporate core competencies among units. So basically, there are two levels of relatedness that gives you economies of scope. Is either operational, when you do operation, or in corporate. So your corporate has certain skills or competencies, and then when you are increasing or building up your external or additional part, your corporate could use and benefit from those competencies that you have, and use them, and then probably create those that you need to increase and add on. So the difference between sharing activities and transferring competencies is based on how the resources are jointly used to create economies of scope. So there is a difference, of course, between sharing activities and transferring competencies. And so when you share, means that there are certain features or activities that are probably the same, but transferring is sometimes it's just you need to transfer and copy or add on certain activities that are similar, but you need to create another unit to do the same, because you can't utilize the same facilities or activities at the same time. So it's just the copy of the original one. So basically, they're all going to enhance and boost up your economies of scope. So basically what we mean by sharing activities. Operational relatedness, created by sharing either a primary activity such as an inventory delivery system or support activity such as purchasing. So basically, to help you understand it better, it goes back to your value chain. You know, it's either primary activity is one of those primary activities, or it's related to support activities. Then, activity sharing requires sharing a strategic control over business units. So basically, when you are sharing activities, you are also sharing a strategic control. So basically, you have control over certain units, and you want to share that and extend that to other units. So that's also part of a related, extension of activity. Activity sharing may create risk because a business unit ties create links between outcomes. Of course, when you are sharing an activity, there is a risk involved because you are trying to link the outcomes, and you are trying to get the similar outcomes from similar activities, which will not always be the case, because sometimes when you use the same activities or similar ones, there will be minor differences, so the project will be probably very much different from what you originally have. So you got to be prepared for the differences that will happen and the challenges along the line. So it's not going to be an easy ride. You always have to be ready for the changes and amendments that you need to make spontaneously and continuously. So it's very important to be aware of that and be ready for it. So basically, here what we have is transferring the corporate competencies. So when we are transferring the competencies of your corporation, you need to use complex sets of resources and capabilities to link between different businesses through managerial and technological knowledge, experience, and expertise. Okay, before I continue here, I see a question from Mr. Ibrahimi. Yes, sharing activities does also include the idea and services. Yes, as I said, it could be from your primary activities or secondary activities. So that means that it could be any of those. So if wherever there is a similar activity that you could utilize, you try to benefit from that. If there are similar type of services or maintenance that you got to provide, you can always use your, core competencies of like the original or the previous type of activities that you used to provide. And if it's something extra, then you have to make the addition. Sure. So corporate relatedness with the perspective of transferring the competencies, we'll talk about how we link different businesses through managerial, like the managerial level, the management, or knowledge, the technical knowledge. This also refers to your question, Mr. Ibrahimi, that sharing ideas is part of the knowledge of the company. And then the experience, the expertise of the staff, Let's say it happens a lot when corporations wants to extend their activities and they're creating a new unit. They will ask one of their staff to go to the other unit and share their expertise and ideas and knowledge with the new staff, so they know what's going on there, and that helps them to understand, because somebody who is expert in some certain field out of years of experience and knowledge, they have a lot to share. So they want to make sure that when you're transferring the units, you need to also transfer the experience, the knowledge of the product, the procedure of the operation and stuff like that. So that's regarding the transparent corporate competencies. Then corporate relatedness. So we basically create values in two ways. One is eliminating resource duplication in the need to allocate resources for a second unit to develop a complete competence that already exists in another unit. So basically, when you are extending or building up your company or corporation, one way to create value is you eliminate the need to duplicate, because suppose you were going to start from scratch, right? So if you want to start from scratch, you need to create basically everything that you have done to get to the level that you can make the production possible. So that would be very costly, that would be like very time-taking, and also a lot of expertise would be involved, and that would stop you. So in a sense, when you are doing that extension of the economies of scope, you're eliminating that need to do that. You don't have to do it anymore because you can already utilize what you have and in other units. Then it will provide intangible resources like resource intangibilities that are difficult for competitors to understand and imitate. So that's also very important. As I mentioned, the expertise, the knowledge, the experience, the exposure that you have had within your previous unit, and it has given you a very good insight of how to do the business, how to create the product, and how to market it. So all of these you already have, and it's sort of an intangible resource that you can use to benefit from. So a transferred intangible resource gives the unit receiving it an immediate competitive advantage over its rivals. Okay, you mean what sense are you talking about the intangible values? Oh, okay. So basically, tangible and intangible, just to briefly explain, tangible are those that you can easily see and measure, like let's say money-wise or certain production units that you can just count them and say, okay, I have this many machines that they produce this and that. But intangible is when you can't necessarily measure them immediately, like the level of the expertise of your staff. How skillful and how knowledgeable they are. I mean, there are tests for you to measure that, but it doesn't give you as the same type of measurement as you can just count the money that you have or your capital. It's like a definite number. But for intangible, it's something that you can't necessarily count it in the same way. But it's a still value, your image, your reputation, all these are intangible assets. So basically, we are saying that doing that, like that, diversification helps you to create that intangible asset and or use that intangible assets that you already have. So basically, it takes a time for you to create intangible resources. So if you were to start from scratch, it would take a long time to get them. But because you have already done a great job and you're already at a point that you have all those values and competencies, when you are starting in a new venue of the business and you're just extending some of your products, you already benefit from those, intangible assets that you have, and that helps you to gain competitive advantage. Did you understand, or could I answer your question, Mr. Diassi? Beautiful. So that's really important because we are very much concerned about the competitive advantage of your company, and when you can benefit from some of the intangible or even tangible assets that you have, it will be great because it gives you the chance to enhance or boost up your corporation and diversify, and at the same time gain competitive advantage. That's what we want. So how about the market power? Market power exists when a firm can sell its product above the existing competitive level and reduce the cost of primary and support activities below the competitive level. Okay, that's also very, very straightforward. So basically, you get the market power by diversification. How? By basically selling your product at the same competitive level that you were selling your previous products. So suppose, or I mean, that's an example of Sony products. Sony has been diversifying in many different areas. They have their TVs, they have their like different video game players, like PlayStation and everything. So when they come up with a new product, all their core values and their their capability to sell their products at a very, very high competitive level will be basically diversified and extended to their new product. So when they created their PlayStation, and then later on they created this video game systems, they basically were selling them with the same exact level of the market and with the same profit, perhaps. I mean, in the future, like right now, they have improved tremendously their market level. But what I'm saying is, they just don't start from scratch. Suppose you're selling a product and first people got to know you, who you are, what type of business you do, and then probably they buy your product, test it, and then they will decide whether they want to buy again or not. But when you are a company like Sony or even any other company and you already introduce yourself to the market and people know how your products are and what is the quality level, so basically when you create a new product, you don't have to go through all those steps. You are selling it exactly at the level you're selling your products, but it took you much longer, So, and then you are reducing the primary activities cost or support activity costs, because if you are to compete at the competitive level, you are to provide the cost at a certain level for a competitive market, and basically it's how much it would cost you if you were just going to create them like from scratch. But because you have economies of scope and all those things that help you to increase and develop or extend your previous competencies, you can save a lot of money, and that gives you even more competitive advantage because you are the products that you're creating will cost you less than other companies. So these are all the benefits of diversification for a company. So basically, it takes us back to the same idea that growth is always good in a corporation. So, or change is always good in a corporation, because the one would say, okay, if we are doing good, what's the need to just extend or expand our businesses or products or all those things, and so we can just keep on doing what we're doing and we'll be successful. But the problem is, it's not the case. You gotta expand your businesses, and that basically helps you to save money or to benefit from a lot of a lot of market opportunities that are there. You need to just explore them and then use them. Okay. So any questions so far? So don't hesitate to let me know if there is any question that you have or any part that you miss, and we will definitely discuss that for you. You can type it down or raise your hand and ask in a class. Okay. So then again, on market power, we have multi-point competition, which is two or more diversified firms simultaneously competing in the same product areas or geographical markets. Okay, so that's then again is something else that, as I said, you are using that economies of a scope and all those stuff that are part of the diversification. But you got to understand that a lot of times what you're doing is what other corporation or competitors are doing at the same time. So when Sony does something, Samsung will do that again also. So it's not that you are the only one who is diversifying. So that will be translated in the sense that when you expand in different markets or in different product units and everything, your competitor will do the same. So the competition sort of extends to the next level. So that competitive advantage that you have already got is comparable to the other company's competitive advantage because they are also diversifying and expanding. So that gives you the idea how you got to keep on improving and working on the product quality and how to save cost and budget and capital and resources. So even when you're expanding, because when you're expanding, you might think, okay, I'm the only one. You might be the first one, but the thing is that will not last for long, and a lot of other competitors will join you in expanding and diversifying. So then, end of the day, you'll be competing in the new markets, in new regions with the same competitors also. Then we have the vertical integration concept that sometimes, as I said, you need to do backward integration, means the firm produces its own inputs. As I said, you buy your products from your from your suppliers. Sometimes some companies might decide to produce their own supplies. Or forward integration is like when you operate its own distribution system for delivering, like the postal system, when you send the products to the customer. Some companies might decide, okay, we will have our own delivery system, and we will deliver our products ourselves. So these are all the concepts involved in basically diversification and how you gain that market power. Then the complexity issue, simultaneous operational relatedness and corporate relatedness. So it involves managing two sources of knowledge simultaneously. So that's kind of a complex, task that you are taking on, which means that you are managing two sources of knowledge at the same time, which is operational forms and corporate forms. So, and many such efforts often fail because of implementation difficulties. So, you've got to understand that when you are diversifying or expanding, it takes operational forms and corporate forms of diversification, and not always you will succeed because a lot of times that you have problems with the implementation of the new units. I mean, you need to implement the same type of product units that you had, so that within the implementation process you might fail, and that new venue for the new product might not work properly or efficiently, so you have to make a lot of amendments and it will take time. So it's not as smooth as it might look also sometimes. Sometimes it takes a lot of, research, a lot of technical and technical expertise to be able to implement all those similar activities in your new unit. So when you are diversifying, you need to understand it's a very complex scenario. You don't always have the the requirements. Sometimes you need to make changes to those activities. You cannot just copycat them all the time. You need to, make amendments when necessary, see what is the new product or business category that you're creating, and see what is really needed to do so, and then go ahead. Okay. So then, regarding the unrelated diversifications, financial economies are cost saving realized through improved allocation of financial resources. So basically, sometimes your firm might decide to make some investment in some other type of business. Let's say you are in computer business, but you will decide to make some investment in agriculture businesses. So it's not something that you will go and create all those agricultural products. It's just you make some investment in the market, maybe in shares or stuff like that, and then you benefit the company, and that benefit will, of course, be reflected in your balance sheet and everything. So, this is unrelated to your core business, but you just make the investment to increase your capital. Then create value through two types of financial economies: efficient internal capital allocations and purchasing other corporations and restructuring their assets. That is very important also. When you acquire other corporations, they might be similar or different. So that is also some part of diversification. That's also part of investment. So if your company is a computer company, and then you decide to go and buy, let's say, a company that produces books, it's like a different type of business. So it's like an investment that you're making. Okay, we have a question here about monopoly. Yeah, monopoly is when there is only one, or very few, basically, to be exact, is one producing that type of product. So basically, when you are, one of the aspects in monopoly and how to relate it to the market power is, in order to remain monopoly, you've got to expand very fast and keep up expanding. Otherwise, other competitors might come in and you will lose your monopoly. Because nowadays it's so difficult to have a monopoly, because companies are just copying or following their competitors. So if, let's say, you are a monopoly in software, as it was the case for Microsoft, it didn't last forever. They lost it because everybody tried to compete, and other corporations came in, and they couldn't stay the only software provider in the market. So basically, the market power and your monopoly are, of course, related. When you have a monopoly, you are very powerful in the market, but you will lose your power very fast unless you expand tremendously and and also change or be able to efficiently diversify. So otherwise, you won't be able to do that. So that's for the question there. So as I mentioned, so we have financial, and then like just non-financial, which is like when you go and buy a corporation. So when you buy a corporation other than yours, like let's say
here there are banks who go and acquire other banks, and those other banks, they are in the same, line of business and product category, but they might have different core competencies and different markets. So by buying them, you're investing in new markets and new products that those banks offer. So that helps you to diversify. So one of the fastest ways to diversify is to buy or acquire another company, probably in the same area, and if it's not, it will be like unrelated investment or diversification, which is just the financial wise. You just put that money in, and they are still operating what they were operating, and then the benefit will get back to you, and you will double or triple your investment. Okay. So then we have the concept of unrelated diversification in the sense of efficient internal capital market allocation. So when your corporate office distributes capital to business divisions to create value for overall company, that's also part of the efficient internal capital market allocation. So yes, Mr. Hiyoshi, diversification is like when you diversify in different, not necessarily just the products, it could be markets, it could be industries. So when you are doing what you're doing, when you diversify, you increase your activities, your production, your market. So you basically are expanding and doubling and increasing your activities. So back to the unrelated diversification, by efficient internal capital market allocation, we mean corporate office will distribute capital to business divisions, and so they would be able to create value for the whole company. So basically, corporate office gains access to information about those businesses and actual prospective performance. So in order to be able to allocate the right and necessary capital to the businesses, the corporate office should gain access to information about those businesses and be able to make the right decisions. So conglomerates have a fairly short life cycle because of financial economies are more easily duplicated by competitors than are gains from operational and corporate relatedness. So basically, conglomerates is when you are expanding tremendously and just investing in the different venues compared to when you are gaining from operational and corporate relatedness. So basically what happens is when you make several investments in unrelated businesses, you create a conglomerate. And in that sense, it's not as efficient as a diversified company in a same business or line of business would be, because there are so many different activities. The concept and the core meaning of different activities that your company does, they don't match. They're totally different. That's about the unrelated diversification. So they will not last long because you're doing a lot of different stuff, and that helps you. That would not help you forever, because the competitors, they gain a lot more from their operations, so you'll lose out. What is related? Okay, Mr. Qiyasi, related, as I mentioned, in the same type of market, same product category, or in the same, venue of the business. But what I said is when you're investing in an unrelated, as I said, it's like
you are in computer business, then you are investing in agricultural or some totally different type of business. So that will be unrelated. And as I said, like unrelated businesses, if you have so many of them, they will not last long, because there are major differences from your units, and basically you will lose out most of the times, unless you're so big. And like DuPont, DuPont is a company that they do a lot of different things. They are like huge, and they do technological stuff. They do a lot of retail stuff. They do even like perfumes. So that company is a huge company, and they have diversified in many different venues. But not all companies would be successful when they diversify in unrelated businesses. So when you do unrelated diversification, sometimes you need to restructure. So a firm creates value by buying and selling other firms in the external market. So sometimes in the same line or along with the diversification, you have to buy some other companies, or you have to sell some of those companies that you have to others. So it's like a process for you to restructure, because you have to adjust according to the needs and requirements of the market. So when you see there is a need to get rid of some of the companies that you have, you got to do it. Or sometimes when you see that you have to buy some corporations to be able to do what they do and benefit from their expertise, you got to buy that other company. Then resource allocation decisions may become complex, so success often requires focus on mature, low technology businesses, or focus on business not relying on a client orientation. So you got to understand that the resource allocation decisions always are complex decisions, and for them to be successful, you need to focus on a mature, low technology business, means business with the low cost. Because when you're expanding, you don't want to bring in something that takes all your, profit away because of its cost. So you got to make sure that it's not a very high-tech or, immature business that you got to wait and see how it will go. Mostly these extensions is when a company buys another company that is doing well in that certain other industry or same industry. So, but now we are talking about unrelated diversification, so basically that different type of industry. And then you also focus on businesses that are not relying on a client orientation. You try to be specific on the businesses that you buy or overtake. They should not be just client oriented. They should be product oriented so they can create their own customers. So just pause here. Is there any questions so far? Any part you need some extra clarification? Okay, so since there is no question, let's go to the next slide. So you see here a chart which is the curvilinear, means it looks like a curve, but it's a linear or one-to-one relationship between your performance and level of diversification. As you can see, your performance tops at the performance and level of diversification when you have related constraints. But the dominant businesses and unrelated, as you can see, they just fall down. So the more you go to that peak of the curve is the time that you would be successful. So just shows how
diversification helps your company to perform and succeed and do a better job in their performance. Does everybody understand this chart? Any question on this? Okay, we are good. Wait for firm. Okay, when you decide not to have diversification, it's like basically you're saying no to change. As I said, doing what you're doing for now might be okay. You might be doing very well for now, but if you don't move on and you don't expand your businesses, you will lose out. You know, so you can't just say that, okay, I'm doing pretty well now and I'm going to stay where I am. I'm not going to diversify and then just keep on being successful. That will not happen because the whole idea of success comes with growth. If you don't grow, you basically won't be successful forever. So if you are not doing it, others are doing it, and you'll lose out. So you will lose out to your competitors for sure. Okay. Yeah. So basically, to answer your second question, for now you might be doing well, but in the long run you won't be doing well. That's right. No, that's not true. Dell is still on computers, but as you can see, they have expanded like backward and forward. So they used to buy a lot of the stuff from the suppliers. Now they have their own supplies a lot of time, or even the way they ship the products, they are integrating a lot of systems that helps them to ship the product to the customer. So a lot of these processes are done by Dell now. So as you can see, the company has grown tremendously. They never had the retail store thing, but now they do. So these are all the changes that they have. So every single company that you see is doing well is probably because of the fact that they're diversifying, they're changing and growing. You're right, Mr. Wafa. When you invest in unrelated businesses, the chance for you to lose is much more because, as I said, these different type of businesses that you have, they are doing all different stuff, and it's so difficult to manage them all at the same time and be successful. So you see a lot of failures in unrelated businesses, but it's not that it's not happening or companies are not successful. They're like DuPont that I mentioned is one of those that is very successful in unrelated businesses. Okay. So there are internal incentives to diversify. There are certain internal aspects to your company that encourages you to diversify. So low performance, uncertain future cash flows, and synergy and risk reduction. So all these are some of the reasons that you want to diversify. So synergy exists when the value created of a business working together exceeds the value created of working independently. So basically synergy happens when you find out that the value for you to work together with some other corporation is much more than not working together. But this is also true that when you have synergy, there will be interdependence or some dependence between different business units. And a firm may become risk averse and constrain its level of activity sharing. Sometimes the firms don't want to take any risk, and they sort of restrain and limit the number of activities that they share with each other. And that will sort of have a negative effect on diversification. And a firm may reduce the level of technological change by operating in more certain environments. So also it's true that a firm might reduce the level of the technological changes that they do, and they just operate in that certain environment that they are working at. So some of the incentives to diversify, as I mentioned, is when your company, the performance is not as high as it should be, or you are not sure if the future cash flows are coming in. So these are all some of the reasons that we might consider diversification. So, and also some insights on synergy and risk reduction. So, resources and diversification. As you know, a firm must have both incentives to diversify and resources required to create value through diversification. So, basically, your firm, when you are going to diversify, you need to have those incentives as we just discussed, and then you need to have the resources required to create value through diversification. So there are certain resources needed when you are going to make a diversification, and those resources should be present when you do that. Then probably you need some cash or capital, tangible resources like plant and equipment and everything, so some measurable required things that you need to have in order to be able to diversify. And value creation is determined more by appropriate use of resources by incentives to diversify. So, but you need to consider and understand and have in mind that creating value is more of the appropriate use of your resources than just diversification. So just diversifying and expanding your business is not necessarily going to give you the benefit of success or competitive advantage. It's just the proper usage of your resources that gives you that competitive advantage. As I said, there are like a lot of common activities when you are expanding your business, but if you are not able to use the proper resources as needed, and you spend a lot of money on just expanding, you will not necessarily be successful. So that's something very important to consider. So, any questions so far? Anybody wants to give some comments or anything? No questions? Okay. So this is the end of this chapter. Okay. So let's go to the next chapter. Okay, let's see. I see some questions here. Yeah, that's right, Mr. Vyasi. Incentive means motives, the reasons behind going for that. Sure. Okay. So the next chapter we're going to talk about cooperative strategy. So by cooperative strategy we mean uh, in line with the corporate strategy is how you cooperate. So cooperative strategy is a strategy which firms work together to achieve a shared objective. So basically it happens when you are diversifying, or not necessarily only when you're diversifying. Sometimes you want to cooperate with another firm, and then you will be two separate firms from each other, and not necessarily you will, join each other and become one. So it's just when you sort of cooperate and work together to achieve a shared objective or goal. And cooperating with other firms is a strategy that creates value for a customer, exceeds the cost of constructing customer value in other ways, and establishes a favorable position relative to competitors. So basically, whenever we do that, it's bigger than corporate strategy then, right? Okay. The question, it's not necessarily bigger than corporate strategy. Cooperative strategy is when you are just devising a strategy to work together to the company. It could be part of the corporate strategy. It's just a matter of how you decide to work together with another firm. It could be because of the reason that you're considering diversification, or you already diversified, or not even that. It's just that you want to work together on that certain type of market for that certain type of consumer. So it could be any of those situations. Then cooperating with other firms is a strategy that creates value for customers, as I said, exceeds the cost of constructing customer value in other ways. Because if you were to create the customer value in other ways, it will be much more difficult, and establishes a favorable position relative to competitors. And it also establishes a favorable position for you compared to your competitors. Then we have the concept of a strategic alliance. So primary type of cooperative strategy in which firms combine some of their resources and capabilities create a mutual competitive advantage. So one of the primary ways for you to create that cooperative strategy is to create alliances. So it involves the exchange and sharing of resources and capabilities and develop and distribute goods and services. Yeah, joint venture could be one of them, that's true. And involves the exchange of sharings of resources and capabilities. So they co-develop and distribute goods and services. So it's basically you're working together to do something. It's not that you do your thing and I do my thing, and it's not that. You work together and then come up with a certain product. So it happens sometimes that two different companies decide on working together on a certain type of project and create a product together or some service together. And it requires a lot of cooperation. So if your company is not into complying or helping the other company, you won't necessarily be successful. It's a lot about you, cooperate, how cooperative you are when it comes to, dealing with other corporations, because some corporations are very, very, reluctant to change, or, they refuse or reject certain changes that might be required when you want to do a cooperation. So sometimes cooperation takes a lot of understanding and ability to change or welcome change and, all those kind of ideas. So it really is something that you got to consider to see if your corporation is one of those corporations that are willing to cooperate, and that cooperative behavior exists among your staff. So it's one of the major, concerns of cooperative product development, and especially when you are going to make an alliance. So some of the strategic alliance behaviors, examples of cooperative behavior known to contribute to alliance success are actively solving problems, being trustworthy, consistently pursuing ways to combine partners' resources and capabilities to create value. So basically, some of the examples of the cooperative behavior is you're actively and continuously solving problems, you're trustworthy, and your other partners in alliance are able to trust you, and then you're always pursuing different ways to combine partners' resources and capabilities to create value. So you're always looking for ways to create value with the help of your partners. So cooperative advantage developed through a cooperative strategy is called collaborative or relational advantage. So competitive advantage will be created when you have this cooperative strategy. And so then that type of competitive advantage, we call it collaborative or relational advantage. So this is the name of this type of advantage when you get it. So it's just, it's called collaborative or relational advantage. Okay. So a sample of the strategic alliance is Firm A, they have resources, capabilities, and core competencies. For Firm B, they have resources, capabilities, and core competencies. Then they combine together their resources, capabilities, and core competencies. So they have a mutual interest in designing, manufacturing, or distributing goods or services. So as you can see, two different firms with two different resources, capabilities, and core competencies, they combine them together and then come up with a new resources, capabilities, and core competencies. It's, of course, most of the time the case that when you combine them, they will be similar. I mean, it's like similar to both of them. But it's something new because the parts that you are missing, the other has, and vice versa. And probably that's why they are considering creating an alliance because they see that some parts that we are missing, you have, and we can work together and create that. Like a very good example is like in the banking industry. Like the last few years, there have been an alliance with Wells Fargo and Wachovia Bank. So Wells Fargo was very good in sales and doing very good, but they needed some help in the customer service. So they bought Wachovia and they created their new version of resources, capabilities, and core competencies, and they are doing much better now. So it's like always you try to find some other corporation that you believe they are going to complement what you have. They are going to help you to add to the value that you're creating for the customers. It's just a matter of being able to detect that and being able to take the right action and when the action is necessary. So we have three types of strategic alliances. We have joint ventures, we have equity strategic alliances, and non-equity strategic alliances. So I don't want to go into detail yet. We will just talk about joint ventures, and then we will leave the rest for the next session. So joint ventures is like when two or more firms create a legally independent company by sharing some of their resources and capabilities. So a joint venture is when two firms, they create a legal independent company. So the third company that created is totally different company from the first two, and they then start, sharing some of their resources and capabilities. So in that sense, you are keeping your own company and your core competencies. You're just using some of them and then creating a new company with the help of your other venture. So we just leave it at that. I don't want to go into the details. Let me just give you some assignment for this session. So the assignment for this session would be, okay, on this slide. So what I want you to do is, please explain how your company creates value. So basically, your assignment would be just explaining how your company is basically creating value with use of these two ways: eliminating resources in the need to allocate resources for second unit. It's like expansion. It's about related diversification. So how your company creates value by using related diversification. So you just go ahead and read this slide and use it and basically come up with the answer to the question of how your company creates value and how you are, how in your company basically diversifying in related businesses. So take a moment, just think about it, and then I'll be looking forward to hear from you, your answers, or writing it down for me.
just go ahead and do that, please. Is there any question about the task? Everybody understands what it means and what we're required to do? Okay. Since there is no question, so okay, go ahead and use imaginative companies, no problem. Or some companies that you have worked before or you know of, just I'd rather it be from your own company or organization or wherever you work. You know, I would imagine all of you are working, so wherever you're working, you are creating value. So you could definitely answer this question for that place. Thank you. So just go ahead, take a moment, and just take a moment and do that, and then please raise your hand or write it down in the chat box. And the type of value that you're talking about is the type of value that you create by eliminating some of the resources that you don't need when you expand. It's about diversification. Mr. Riasi, for sure, you can explain about UN organizations. Definitely, that's great. So the value that we're talking about, Ms. Masuda, is how you sort of create value by diversification. That was the concept of the value creation for this first part of the lecture today. Okay, thank you. Okay. I see that Mr. Navabi has his uh, answer through employing skilled staff, could chain marketing and efficient use of resources, management and good service delivery to optimize results. And, okay. You know, your answer is very general, Mr. Navabi. I would rather you tell me an example. As I said, where you work, you would tell me how you uh, eliminate the need to duplicate some of the resources when you make diversification. When you're expanding, as I said, like if you remember, we discussed how we don't just create from scratch the same stuff. We utilize what we have in the previous production unit, and in the new one, we just add what is needed to be added. And how you gain from intangible benefits that you have from the previous unit and gives you competitive advantage. So I rather some practical examples, not just general examples, and I would rather if it's from your own company. But thanks for sharing. Okay, anybody else wants to share his or her own example? Okay, Mr. Bafa, we create values by considering cost efficiency in various projects as needed. Yeah, I really rather some practical examples because as you know, it's very important for you guys to be able to apply these theories in the work. So please come up with some practical examples. I'm working in the United Nations. Uh, yeah. Okay, so Mr. Diaz's example is good. He mentions what are the values that they have in their company and the core competencies, and and how they are going to diversify and make a transition from the resources from the international community to the government community. So that's good. So, and then you could also mention some of the intangible resources that you have. Intangible meaning those that cannot necessarily be measured like the way that tangible values are measured. So it's a very good example, very good. Just work on it a bit more and, you know, put it in a way that it just puts two answers, like eliminate resource duplication and how the intangible resources create value. So 1 and 2, and then so reformat your answer into the way that it fits the elimination part and the intangible resource part. Thank you. So with that, I finished the class for business strategy for this week. thank you all for attending the class and your participation. And this was session number 8, so we have 2 more sessions of lecture, and the 3rd session from now is the time that I want all the assignments to be submitted. So please keep that in mind. Don't forget. Keep on working on them, and I'll look forward to receive your group projects and also your presentation. One of the groups have already emailed me on one of their assignments, so I'll look forward to more of that, and just be ready for the presentation and all those things, and good luck with that. So I just close the session. Thank you, and see you in the marketing class.